Hello, everyone. This is the Voice of Meaning. I'm Ulrich, and I'm having a discussion today with Neal Martin, uh, another Voice of Meaning. Uh, this is the project that we've worked together on. And uh, one of the things we want to talk about is the difficulty with smartphones, and that we might be able to get addicted to it. And Neal is going to uh, talk about an experience he had where it became evident that there was some addiction to the phone that was happening. So we want to talk about this because it's become a major problem, especially for young kids. And we're not going to go into a lot of detail, but we'll let you know that there are two good books that you can access easily. Kindle has them, ebooks, or you can get the physical books. And also on YouTube, the authors talk about the research behind their warning. So we don't need to go into the details here. So Neal, um, what's the story?
Thank you, Ulrich. It's nice to see you. While my wife and I were traveling abroad, and this was on February 25th, we were at a very crowded market. We were having some delicious food at a lunch counter, and I mistakenly set my smartphone somewhere and then forgot to pick it up. After we walked out for 15 minutes or so, I wanted to take a photo and realized I didn't have it, and my wife didn't have it. We ran back to the area, asked, they said, no, we didn't see any phone. So it looks like the phone disappeared forever. My first reaction was kind of shock. What am I going to do without this? How am I going to communicate and take photos and find out what the news is and what's happening? It was a very difficult few hours. We walked back to our hotel, and I used my wife's phone to contact the carrier to get the phone deactivated. And when I tried to activate an insurance claim, the company said that we won't be able to ship it to you until you come back, and that we weren't due back for 3 weeks.
So
So
you had 3 weeks to sit in it.
yeah, I had 3 weeks to live without the smartphone. This device here, which I since replaced. Some very interesting changes happened. One is I used to depend upon the Google Maps and voices to tell me where to go and how to find places. And I picked up some tour maps and started learning to read a map again, because it's been years since, remember, we if we're in a new town or city, we used to get a map, and we used to study the map, and we figured out where to go. And I acquired or reacquired skills of finding the right direction, reading a map. I noticed that at night I slept better. I often had to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I would immediately check my cell phone for messages, check for, is there any earth-shaking news? I was so addicted that even when I went to the bathroom to do my business, I would bring my smartphone along to look at messages, read the news, look at the stock market, whatever, jillions, check Facebook, check these things. It my wife used to kid that it was my best friend, and I would kind of deny it. No, you're my best friend. But maybe it was. I find that I thought more clearly, my mind worked better, my body worked better, everything worked better.
So your focus improved. Yeah.
Precisely. And I came to the conclusion about 3 days into this life without a smartphone that I was an addict. I probably still am an addict, but I'm now an addict that's under control, that I limit the use of it. I often either turn it off or turn it on airplane mode and set it aside. I don't take it with me on walks as I used to. Um, I limit it. People, when they try to call me, can't reach me every second of the day. I turned off the dings and dongs for texts and emails and Facebook messages. And I decided to just designate mindfully when I'm going to use this device and when I'm going to put it away.
So
And
you decided for you to use the device and not the device to use you.
correct. Other changes, I used it as my alarm clock. Um, and I've learned that I don't need an alarm clock. Generally, if I have to wake up in the morning at a certain hour, I wake up without it, as long as I'm getting enough sleep. It used to be on by my bedside, and every time I woke up, I would check it. So this reward system, dopamine as they call it, I was always hitting the dopamine just by checking a message. Now I actually power it off because it's still tempting. I still occasionally get up in the middle of the night and I feel, oh, I want to grab the phone. And I have to mindfully forbid myself for doing that. Everything can wait until you're done resting.
There's actually an app that you have to figure out a puzzle to turn on your phone.
I would be totally addicted to that because I love puzzles. Yeah. So, I used to play Wordle, and I couldn't wait to play Wordle. I stopped doing that. It's the and other repetitive things that are so tempting. Um, and I believe it's a problem. Whenever I've spoken with friends, they would be sympathetic and say, "Oh yeah, I'm addicted too. What's new?" But what's new is I experience life detached from it. Yes, my wife still had her smartphone. We used it extensively for photography. I still have um, an iPad that I use for business that I can connect to the outside world, but there was a barrier. It was bulky. I had to go somewhere where there was internet.
So,
There were steps I
so,
had to take. Yes,
so one of the solutions is to create some barriers that make it a little bit more difficult to use it. Like you were saying, not have it on all the time, not have the dings on, because good old Pavlov, he taught us that you ring the bell, the dog salivates, and in a sense, that's what we do. So, your story is highlighting all the little details of how this works.
correct. And I would really appreciate, some feedback in the comments of what, let's start some communication about this, because my instinct says, my gut says that this is a very, very serious problem. I know, Ulrich, since you agreed to interview me, you did a little bit of research on the subject. What have you dug up?
Well, there are two books that I like that seem to be right on the issue. One is by Jonathon Haidt, which is called The Anxious Generation. It's about the Zoomers, the kids they're now in their early 20s and late teens. And what researchers noticed was that in 2016, there was a major spike in the suicide rate among girls under the age of 15. And it was the same time, it correlates to when smartphones became ubiquitous. We had smartphones since 1992, but they were very expensive, so the kids didn't have them. But in 2016, around that period, they became so cheap that everybody had them, and the effect began to show. So he's concerned about that with his book. The other book, which is older, is by Nicholas Carr, called Shallows. And it talks about the research of how using screen devices literally rewire the brain so that we have a difficult time focusing deep. We do things in chunks. We don't read from word one on a page to the last word on the page. We cherry pick, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because we read to get information. I hope that the novels aren't read that way, but so that's the research. If the details are not for this video, but if you want more specifics, these two books are you can get them on Amazon or at the bookstore, and they're very useful to understand what's going on. It's not just something that affects me, it's something, or you, it's something that affects everyone, and especially young people whose brain hasn't developed yet. And which is another factor, is that the human brain doesn't really finish until the late 20s in development. So this is, I think, what we want. Your story and what the reason that we're doing this is we want to help sound the alarm that there's something serious with smartphones and anything that you can access the internet with, that we need to consider. And some solutions, as you mentioned, is turn the thing off. Make it you can actually make it so that you can't access it for a specific period of time, and that's really important for kids. But of course, being an addict, we characteristic of being an addict is I'm not addicted. I can handle this. I can manage it. So some look at the research in addiction too. I think that's a valuable thing, especially if you have kids. Especially if you have kids or grandkids. It's important to know. Having conversations at the dining room table, are almost impossible when everybody's got their cell phone out. And they message each other at the table. That's crazy. That's literally crazy. But that's what addicts do. So put your comments down. Become part of the conversation. What are some of the listeners? Some of the things that you already do if you have kids. do you forbid your kids to have cell phones until a certain age? Or do you require them to be offline at a certain time? Of course, kids are pretty smart. They can figure out around all the roadblocks we put out. But let's, at least for me, it's important to get back to enjoying life, real life, not digital life. And so our conversation and the story, which highlights what I'm sure millions and millions of people are experiencing, is what we want to do. Is we want to get people to think, regain control. Cell phones are great. Smartphones are amazing, literally amazing. There are billions of people that have cell phones now in the world. We can call somebody in Timbuktu if we want to, or we can, we can talk to somebody in the Ukraine where there's the battle going on, or in Gaza. It's amazing the way we communicate. But with every new tech, there is a positive and there's a negative. And this is what
the irony is, I wonder how many people are watching this on their smartphones.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
Yeah, it's the genie's out of the bottle, and we have to figure out a way to control this genie, as you said, to not let it control us.
The solution is not to throw it on the ground and step on the device. The solution is, how do we utilize this in a smart way?
Correct. So, Ulrich, if you can send me the names of those authors and the titles, I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah.
And please,
we
love feedback.
And feedback. And if you don't want to read the books, YouTube has lots of really good interviews with both of these authors that where they talk about the research. For some people, hearing it is easier than reading it. So
yeah, absolutely. Even though we might be watching it on YouTube on our smartphones, but it is all ironic. In a little while, I have to go into town and have a blood test at the clinic, and I know there'll be a wait. And I think instead of looking at my smartphone, I'll bring a good book to read in celebration of this.
And you'll enjoy
dialogue. Yeah, I know I will. I have a backlog.
So I guess we've come to the end of our conversation. We may have more of these because part of meaning is being able to be aware of things, and as smart human beings, maybe have some control over it. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
All the best, and hopefully, if you're interested, please subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of interesting interviews and wonderful music. Until next time.
Goodbye.